Should I get PPF? Is a question I get literally all the time. DMs, comments, people offering to fly me out and pay me to install their PPF for them. It's extremely popular among Teslas. And as someone that had PPF professionally installed on their first 2 Teslas and now a full matte PPF that I actually DIY'd entirely myself on my new Performance Model 3, I thought, well, let's just talk about PPF. Do I think it was worth it on my last 2 Teslas? And are these DIY PPF kits nowadays that are thousands of dollars cheaper versus a professional installation really as easy to install as people make them seem? First up, if you're just here to figure out which DIY PPF kit I went with, drive protected. Like I said, I went with a full matte kit, but they also have clear along with offering full frontals, or just not the entire car if you don't want the entire car. Also, Drive Protected did give me a code that will save you all money if you do decide to get a Drive Protected kit. It's code JMH and it will save you 5%. So a TLDR on PPF and Teslas. PPF, or paint protection film, is a self-healing film that goes on the surface of your vehicle. And as the name implies, it protects your paint and just the overall exterior. It is the ultimate form of exterior protection, as it is a physical barrier between the surface of your vehicle and the outside world. Unlike things such as ceramic coatings and sealants, I see people ask all the time, what's the difference? And it's like, well, PPF is like an actual barrier, where those other things are just coatings that go on top. They don't actually protect against anything physical. Now, while any car can get PPF, the reason that you see so many Teslas getting PPF is because, well, A, the paint, while it is better than it was just a few years ago, it's still pretty thin. And B, your front bumper, because it's an EV, doesn't have a big grille. It's just one big painted surface that takes all the beating. As most of us know, the one caveat is that to get it professionally installed, well, it's pretty expensive. In my area, and from what I've seen, this is around the average price here in the US in USD, to get the entire car PPF'd in a clear film, like $6,000 to $7,000. Matte is about an extra grand, so $7,000 to $8,000. Full frontals are around about half that, so about $3,000. And that is actually what I paid for both my Teslas that I had full frontals on before. And if you're not familiar with what a full frontal is, it's the entire hood, the entire bumper, headlights, front fenders, and then sometimes it also includes like halfway up the A-pillars and mirrors too. It's just to cover all your high impact areas from rocks and other debris. But how do these prices compare to DIY? Because, well, 60 to 70% of the professional installation cost is labor. The material itself is nowhere near as expensive as what you're paying. A full frontal kit will run you roughly about $1,000, with an entire car kit running you about $2,000 and matte's about $2,500. So like a third of the cost versus professional installation. Last thing before we get into my installation, is it even worth it? Like, yes, it's a third of the price, but is that even worth it? Well, strictly from a how much would I get for my car if I sold it and the paint was in perfect condition because of the PPF that I put on it perspective, the price for professional installation is not worth it. You may get around $1,000 extra if you have a full frontal and, you know, the paint underneath is perfect. And upwards of like $2,000 for the entire car. Model 3s and Ys on average nowadays are only like $50,000. And I say only, you know, in comparison to $250,000, $500,000 cars. Cars that normally always get PPF, but when they go to resell, it doesn't really matter if they spent, you know, $7,000 or $8,000 to get the whole car, because they're going to get, you know, $10,000 to $20,000 back. And most people will more than likely agree that spending over 10% of your vehicle's value on just film is not worth it. Now, from the perspective of you just want to keep the car in good condition and make it easier to clean, well, how much is $3,000 to $8,000 worth to you? But if you have to ask that question, then it's probably not worth it for you, and you should probably look at DIYing. Now, there are a few reasons why I went with Drive Protected. First is their "we got you if you screw this up" policy. That's just what I'm calling it. That's not actually what it's called. But essentially, if you mess up a panel, you just send them a picture and they'll send you the replacement panel for the low price of just paying shipping. Secondly is their training course, which is honestly kind of mind-blowing, and had it not been for this, I would have never gotten this installed. There's a series of videos that introduce you to PPF and everything you need to know, followed up by how to do your entire car, and it's car specific, so it's not like that you buy a Model Y and they're showing you how to do it on a Model 3. No, like they show you how to do it on the car that you bought it for. They go panel by panel in the installation order that you should install it, and it's all filmed by the owner, who is a professional. Yeah, while you're looking at this B-roll, just please keep in mind that prior to doing this, I had never touched PPF. And this is what I got. I have friends that install PPF like for a living, and they didn't believe that I did this on my own. Like they thought that I had someone come out and help me install this. So hopefully that answers your question to, are these DIY kits really as easy as people make them seem? If you're buying from Drive Protected, which spoiler alert, that's like where I see everyone buying from, then yes, it really is that easy. Like I said, they have an entire training academy showing you literally panel by panel on how to PPF. So there's really no point in me sitting here showing you how I PPF'd my car. So instead I thought, why don't I go over all of the mistakes that I made from someone that has never touched PPF before? That way, if you're in that same position, you won't make these same mistakes. One of the first things you learn in the training academy is the order of which you'll be doing the install. From the easiest panel to the hardest, along with, they also provide you some like sample pieces included. And this is all done to build confidence. I made my first mistake almost immediately, unrolling the film. If you don't properly tack down the film, which I'm not gonna lie, like the training academy is very specific, like, hey, tack it down first. I just wasn't really paying attention. And then you unroll. Well, what you're seeing happen to me right here will happen to you. It starts sticking to itself and it just becomes a mess. Thankfully though, this isn't the end. All you gotta do is just kind of work with it and just pull it apart. So yeah, just make sure you tack down a good amount, then unroll slowly. Once it is unrolled, then you can lift the tack part up, align, and start your actual install. My second mistake wasn't far after I got done with the hood, and that was just contamination. Firstly, you should be working in an air-controlled environment, so no air moving around, spreading hair, dust, and debris. But secondly, do not sit the film down on an unclean surface. Doing this is just asking for the debris to be transferred from unclean surface to your film, and then it gets stuck under the film as you're laying it on the panel. I probably spent an hour getting all like the little hairs and dust and stuff off because I laid it on my garage floor for some reason, even though it tells you not to do that. So just make sure you don't lay it down. And thirdly, assuming that you don't have a second set of hands and you're doing it by yourself, make sure that every piece that you're installing is rolled up and then you back roll it off. This will further cut down on debris going from the paper to the surface of your vehicle. This is because if you unroll it while you're laying the film, this prevents the rear of the film, like paper, from ever touching the surface of your vehicle, which at this point will be like slip solution down and everything. And it's just super easy to attract hair and dust and stuff under. But if you back roll it, then you only really have to worry about the front, and it, like I said, just cuts down on debris. I personally blew off every piece prior to installation, which I believe is what aided in an almost debris-free install. And keep in mind, I have 2 golden retriever floof balls at home that, like, well, if you have dogs, you know that even though they never go in my garage, there's still a ton of dog hair in my garage. Now, the next mistake I made was my tack solution, and it's not really what you think. I didn't get my mixture wrong. In fact, they actually recommend that you don't even use alcohol, you just use hot water. And this is because of just how easy it is to mess up the solution mixture. Like if you mess up your slip solution, that's kind of whatever. But if you mess up your tack solution and you hit that film, the adhesive, and there's just too much alcohol, like you will burn it and then it's just game over. It was just the fact that on more difficult parts, like the camera indentation on the quarter panel, I would get the PPF just too wet and it wouldn't stick. And the key here is to just stop and let it dry. Maybe go refresh your tack with more hot water, because honestly, if it is getting too wet like this, then it probably means that your tack solution has just lost its heat. It's just sat there getting colder. Yeah, I ended up getting impatient on my first quarter panel and ended up cutting it so it would stick. But had I just left it alone and came back later and then slowly pushed it down without any sort of tack solution, it would have laid perfectly, which is exactly what I did on the other quarter panel. And like I said, it laid perfectly. Same thing kind of happened on the rear quarter panel. They actually show you how to deal with like super large fingers. It's like a sideways sawing technique, and it worked until the panel and the film got too wet. This time though, I just let it dry. I came back later once it was dried with the squeegee and got that big finger down into multiple little fingers and then tucked it, no problem. But besides those 3 or 4 things, I didn't really make any other mistakes. I did remove my spoiler by accident as I thought I needed to, but you don't. The kit accounts for that. I do recommend opting for the no cutouts, as that'll give you complete coverage and it'll be easier as you don't need to line up any emblems or badges. During the training academy, they actually tell you how the trunk latch is going to be somewhat time consuming because you have to, like line up all your badges and stuff. But for me, it was super easy because I just didn't have badges. And of course, you can always put badges back on after the fact. And for anyone that hasn't ever removed an emblem, it's super easy. Just take measurements so you know exactly where it goes back, heat gun or hair dryer to loosen up the adhesive, and then use a fishing line to kind of floss them off. Then just hit it with some adhesive remover. I didn't have any, so I ended up using Goo Gone. Putting them back on is just a matter of cleaning the old adhesive off, making sure that, you like alcohol wipe it down, you get some new 3M double-sided tape, and you just use some adhesive promoter just to make sure it really sticks. As for my routine and like how I went about it, like panel by panel, once the car was fully washed and ready, I would slip solution the panel, clay bar it, and yes, I clay barred even though the car was pretty much brand new. It only had like 1,500 miles on it. Then I'd spray a rinseless mixture, wipe that off, then 91% alcohol and dry. From there, I would re-slip it down, get my PPF, lay it, install it, then go inside and watch the next panel installation video within the training academy. My car took me 4 days. However, I was going really slow due to a heat wave in my garage just being too hot to install PPF, like it was over 100 degrees. In normal conditions, I could have got this done in 3 days. A full frontal you could totally knock out in like an evening to like just a single day. I did 0 edge wrapping until everything was PPF'd. And once the edges were wrapped, I waited another day for post heating. Another thing that I really recommend doing is inspecting each panel about 2 or 3 hours after it's been installed and dried, just for any signs of like hair or debris. The sooner you find something, the easier it is to lift the film and get it out. You can really work with this film. I had to pull my door up about 16 hours after I laid it just to get some debris out, and it relayed no issue with no lift lines. As for what comes with the kit and what you'll need to buy, pretty much everything you need is included, and it's all like really high quality stuff. Bottles for tack and slip, a very nice squeegee, lint-free towels, clay bar, stuff for washing, iron removal, and even ceramic stuff for post PPF. Besides something like a heat gun for post heating and edge laying, and if you do decide to remove your badges, what you'll need for that. The only thing I'd really recommend getting is going to be one of those like rolly chairs with the kind of storage compartment underneath. That way, you don't destroy your back or your knees, bent down trying to do the lower panels. I got this one from Amazon and I'll have it linked below. It's like $40, and like I said, my back and legs couldn't be happier. Like I pretty much wasn't sore at all throughout the entirety of this. Besides that, my install went really smooth and I'm extremely happy with the results. In terms of what's wrong with my install, well, there's like 2 little pieces of hair on the trunk latch that I didn't catch, and there are some fingers, which by the time you're seeing this, I will have reheated and laid back down, so they shouldn't be as noticeable. I've already gotten tons of compliments on it and I really like it. I've kind of come full circle, as back in 2021 when I got my long range, I actually paid extra for the Midnight Silver Metallic with plans to matte it out, but at the time I didn't realize that it was $8,000 to do that, so I never did. But here we are with, in my opinion, a much better gray versus Midnight Silver Metallic, matted out and with literally thousands of dollars saved. I'll have Drive Protected linked down below, and don't forget you can use code JMH to get 5% off of your order. It's a great way to support the channel while at the same time saving you thousands of dollars versus having this done professionally. And trust me, if I can do it, you can do it. Now, if you are new around here and you want to see more Tesla related stuff in your YouTube feed, then feel free to subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.